Welcome back to a post-college football playoff championship edition of the BlueWhite Tailgate Podcast. A fantastic trio here, as always. Frank Bonanni of the York Daily Record, Mike Gross of the Gross Rational Product, and myself, Andrew Callista. We are expecting former Penn State great and NFL alum Justin King to join us later on in the show. Justin's a very busy man. He said he got 15, 20 minutes, so we're hoping he jumps on. If not, Justin is a friend of the podcast. We will get him on later in the off season. Want to pick his brain on a couple of topics. But guys, we got plenty to talk about if Justin can't make this show. And let's start with what Penn State does best, and that is dominate on the wrestling mats. I know, Mike Gross, I know you're a basketball guy. I do got a basketball question from an Andy in Altoona. I'm going to throw that your way. But we're going to start on the wrestling match with Frank Bonanni, who covers the Penn State wrestling beat. Frank, they're the best team ever. And that they're expected year after year to be better than the best team. It's always supposed to be historical. And somehow they always live up to the expectation. They dominated Iowa. Coach Brands didn't know what to say, except that he thinks he has the guys to change what's going on in the Iowa locker room and in the Iowa program. Can Penn State be stopped without a binding resolution from the United Nations? What is going to stop them?
Cale Sanderson leaving and dismantling the program, maybe. No, I mean, it's like something we're not really used to. Every time Tom Brands talks about Penn State, it's like, it's not normal. Well, yeah, it's not normal because Penn State has outscored their opponents so far this year, 381-19. Okay. You don't even hear about that in like youth sports. Like, what is that number? Right? This is like the top level. They're in the best wrestling conference in America, and they're beating people 381-19. So they have 6 wrestlers ranked number 1. Here's the thing is like, so we always have that headline you talked about. Is this the best Penn State wrestling team ever? The curious thing is how they are, but they find ways to kind of outdo themselves still. Like there's still ways that they find to somehow improve upon being the best. And I think that's incredible. Like, are they're going to break their own record for most shutouts in a season? I think they may be the only team ever to have 6 wrestlers ranked number 1 during the season. They just broke the NCAA all-time win streak. So there's things that we find, if you look closer, that they still somehow can do. It's the best sports dynasty going.
Mike, I'm not trying to, make anybody look bad, but you cover basketball. You're not on the wrestling, right? So Frank, as a little experiment, I'm just going to say to Mike, how many wrestlers and drama can you name on Penn State's wrestling team?
Oh, don't do that.
Come on, go there, baby. Go there, do it. We know you got to split on under that.
I can't name any of them.
They're not in the headlines. And yet there's other wrestlers that get all the headlines with their NIL. I'm going to Iowa. I'm going to Virginia Tech. I'm not saying anything because they're high school kids and things like that. But Penn State, they just come in, they do the job. Cale identifies what he needs at what weight classes, and he just has a list that he goes down and just fills out the roster year in and year out.
Well, a couple of things, and again, I can't speak to this intelligently, but I'll say a couple of observations. Number one, those 2 recruits that you just named, what makes them notable is that they didn't go to Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually a reflection on Penn State. And it seems to me that this team might have a little bit less star power, but I'm not sure how high wattage the star power is for anybody in wrestling. But it seems like they might have a little bit less star power. But again, they seem as dominant as ever. Am I about right on this, Frank?
Yeah, they have more depth than they have. And I think that's a key, too, because you're talking about a sport like football or whatever, where guys get injured. You don't know when, how, why, but they do. So who's going to be your backup and how far are you going to fall off? Well, now they're to the point where they have 10 starters. And if somebody gets hurt, they're really, I mean, they're redshirting All-Americans. So imagine if, like in football, you went to a guy who was an All-American, say, you know what, we got this situation, I'd like you to sit out next year. That guy would be out the door looking for $1 million in like 10 minutes. Well, at Penn State in wrestling, they do it. Like they have 2 All-Americans that we're going to redshirt. One still is, because they know that that program will actually make them better for not just Penn State, but beyond Penn State if they follow the script. And I don't think you see that in other sports. It's just a unique, right? It's a unique sport. I never did it, covered it, followed it growing up for 30 years in my business. But now that I am, you have a whole outside perspective. And some people are even on message boards like this Kurt Signetti from Indiana. He has some Cale Sanderson in him. Is there some comparisons? Because it's not just the players. Penn State doesn't get every best wrestling recruit.
Yeah.
The ones that go there seem to develop now better than the ones that go to Iowa or the ones that go to maybe even Ohio State or somewhere else. Look at Indiana football. I mean,
I was thinking the same thing about Signetti. Here's one thing I would suggest is might be different. I don't think this Indiana football team had unbelievable depth. I mean, if they'd have really got hammered by the injury bug, they might have had some trouble that Penn State wrestling can probably absorb because they have unbelievable depth. Yeah.
Penn State wrestling could actually not even wrestle like 2 of their guys every match for the rest of the year and still win every match. You can't do that.
It's just unbelievable. It doesn't make sense. Yeah.
We're going to have Jeff Byers back on the show. We should probably just do a full hour on wrestling here as we get closer to the postseason and just let Jeff go. We all know, we all love Ironhead, and Ironhead could fill that full hour by himself. So, I mean, we could talk great stuff. But one thing you cannot do, and I always love the debates, build a Mount Rushmore of Penn State wrestling. You can't do it. You can't do it because of what they've been able to do. Is Quentin Wright on there? Is Ed Ruth on there? Is David Taylor? Like, we're asking our 3-time champs on there, 2-time champs on there. Carter Starachi, is he on there?
Oh,
think about that question. I don't know.
He's the only 5-time NCAA champion in the world. So yeah, I think he'd be.
But does Carter Starachi happen without the other ones previously? Without the Ed Ruth? Without the Bo Nichols? Without the Jason Knopf?
But that's
it's hard. It's hard. So it's a legit question. All right, before we dive into football, and as we hope that Justin King is able to join us with his busy schedule, like Andy and Altoona sent me this question, and you guys could send in your questions, BlueWhite Tailgate Pawcast at gmail.com. We thank you for listening. We thank you for emailing in. Penn State basketball, when is it appropriate? Maybe it is now. After Indiana's won a championship in football. Can't believe I'm saying that. It's almost like a lot of people went to confession and it came true. When is it appropriate for Penn State basketball fans, and yes, there are fans, they might not show up, but there are fans, for them to lose patience with the program?
Well, here's the thing. It's evident that they have less NIL spending than any other basketball team in the Big Ten, and that they're on the low end of the Power Four in spending on basketball, and that Penn State University as an institution, as an athletic department, doesn't care as much about basketball as they do other things. And Indiana football actually has been spending a lot of money. I mean, spending has not really been the problem for Indiana basketball. For Indiana football. And Penn State is so young right now, and Mike Rhodes is in the middle of a 5-year deal right now, that I think you got to give him at least another year. They're effectively unbelievable young, and now they're beat up. Now they have a couple key pieces that are hurt and have dealt with. Mingo is their best player. They were without him for a while and actually performed pretty well without him. So anyway, I'm kind of rambling here, but what it comes down to is I think I think you got to give Mike Rhodes at least another year, given the current roster and the reality. But after that, hey, we all like Mike Rhodes a lot, but it's a tough business, and you got to win. And it's you don't get unending patience. Let's say.
Frank, let me propose it or throw it at you this way. I think 2 years would be realistic because he has that deal. But then Penn State needs to figure out the finances within the whole of the athletic department and figure out where they could grow their revenue. And I'm a believer, and I think there's people within the athletic department that believe there is revenue growth to be had at the basketball level. So if they could figure it out and get money injected into it, is it possible or is it unreasonable to expect that Penn State could become a once every 3 year NCAA tournament team?
Oh, I believe so. Because, I mean, Mike Rhodes is getting recruits. I mean, he may get another big one right now. And I think when you hired him for basketball, you knew that this wasn't going to turn around right away. I mean, this is Penn State basketball. You need to show progress. To me, it's progress. So if he shows progress with recruiting continued with at least to some degree on court results, then you're going to get at least another couple years. And he hasn't shown me that he's going to fail yet, because look at what he's involved himself into here. I mean, you're taking this isn't an easy situation. And of course he's hit with injuries and everything else, but it's going to take a while. So to me, I can see them becoming what you're asking. That's not too big of a jump for me.
Mike, do they need to win some of these close games? That close isn't good enough. I mean,
I think so. I think, unfortunately, their best performances have come in losses. I don't know what I can't explain that. It seems like they have more trouble with teams that are really good on the perimeter than teams that are more conventionally built with big guys. And you wouldn't think that, looking at their roster, that would be the case. But they were able to be impressive defensively against a Michigan State. But I mean, this little 5'11" guy from Maryland went for 30 in the first half against them the other night, in what you would have thought was a winnable game, although it was on the road. Maryland was looking for their first Big Ten win also. Diggy Coit is the guy's name, and he ended up with 40 plus, 43, I think. And that was really a game that you would have thought Penn State could compete in which they did not. You would have thought they could compete against Pitt. They did not. I don't know. It's a tough grind, but yeah, there's some winnable games on their schedule. I mean, the Big Ten is pretty good. The Big Ten is good at the top, but there's some teams that I think they could beat. Rutgers, Northwestern, etc.
Yep, and they could start winning if they're able to pull young Mr. Mingo, Caitlin's brother, in a recruiting battle. We'll see how that goes.
Yep.
It'd be a big coup for Mike
Oh
Rhodes.
yeah, if they can get the brother, that's big. And obviously, the nightmare scenario is the reverse of that, where the brothers both go somewhere else next year, that's the reality we live in college sports right now.
Well, we are pleased to bring in Justin King of the BlueWhite Tailgate Pawcast. Justin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, fellas.
All right, Justin. The obvious question we got to ask you first is, this was a wild season for Penn State, your family in particular. You saw it firsthand with Terry being named head coach and the job he did towards the end of the season. What was it just like, the family conversations going through the second half of this season?
Oh man, it was kind of nostalgic, right? It was like a blast from the past when we used to, back in the whole Gateway days, it was like coach player type of situation. But having a full understanding of, I think, whether there were gaps or where he had to kind of right the ship and moving forward. I mean, just we talk football all the time in an intimate way, so it was like riding a bicycle again, but with a much bigger program and different players, and just understanding the different gaps that may have existed, to be able to make sure that his identity was being shown and that the guys kind of understood and rallied behind what he was preaching, his philosophy, the way they didn't need to play, and all those different type of things that kind of fall under his coaching philosophy.
Justin, kind of related to that, You know what your dad is about and all that, but what was it like to kind of see him become a celebrity? Because I mean, he became all of a sudden became a big deal, and there was a lot of people in the fan base who thought he should have been named the permanent head coach. I mean, you're sitting back and watching that. What were you thinking watching Terry kind of become a big deal in a public way, let's say?
Well, I think it was. I mean, from my perspective, I think it was well overdue, right? Like if you just kind of track just the development of coaches and what coaches do, sometimes they get kind of hidden within the institution when they're at a big school like Penn State or different places of that nature. But me, I kind of my business, I help evaluate coaches, and this what he's been doing at Penn State and putting defensive backs and lockdown you into the NFL and the development phase. I mean, when I came to Penn State, it wasn't really known as a DB school, right? It was called linebacker U, and then since then, I mean, there's more DBs in the NFL from Penn State than Ohio State at the current moment, right? I'm might quote me on that, but that's something that has completely changed. And like identifying that from a position coach standpoint, I mean, I always thought he was one of the best coaches that I've ever played for. And I mean, top three. So and I've played for some pretty great coaches. And so for him to get recognized, I thought was well overdue. And it was like a great thing to see because it was so authentic and he wasn't acting, right? Like that was exactly how he is, how he coaches, and saw how the players responded to it. So it was a very fulfilling thing to watch and witness.
Justin, you are a great cornerback at Penn State. Your dad was a great receiver at Penn State. So tell me something he taught you about being a cornerback, something you learned from him, anything.
Well, no, I mean, it was a lot of things. I mean, my whole time at Penn State, I think there was a lot of, he was kind of the shadow coach in the sense of what makes receivers uncomfortable. Like, right. Cause like, even when I played at Penn State, it was not a multi-look defense like they play now where corners are blitzing. We played scrap, we played in cover three, we got read 2-1, we got, or man coverage. It was kind of that. So just from that standpoint, it gave me different keys on how to, like what makes receivers uncomfortable, whether it's like using my speed to sit on receivers, not being threatened deep, but really challenging me to challenge. Like that's kind of always what he kept in my mind, even if we played like a softer defense, but always challenging and what makes receivers uncomfortable. So I think that was like the mentality of receivers and what they're looking for. And obviously, I played receiver before, so him teaching me those different type of things, having that perspective on both sides was always very helpful.
You did play receiver. We should not forget 2005, should we? Almost.
Right. I mean, receiver and corner, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Justin, Frank's going to leave this one hanging out there. So I'll ask you, a lot of people, OJ McDuffie, Stephen Pitts, just to name a few, have always said your dad is like one of the best route runners they've ever seen. So can you cover your dad?
It's funny you say that. Like, I mean, like now probably yes, but before no, because he's like extremely quick. You know what I mean? Like people like joke about it, and like until you show his highlights to like the players current, like on the current team, and they're like, oh my god, I didn't know you were that quick. Because like you talk about like the KJ Hamlers and things of that nature, he was like that level of quick. And I'd probably say a little bit. I mean, KJ might have been faster long speed, but I think even short area quickness, he was probably quicker than KJ. I don't know if we've had somebody, but he was ultra quick in a short area of space. I mean, those are always the tougher guys, for me, like a long limbed or high waisted guy. So yeah, he was always pretty quick from that standpoint.
The 91 Notre Dame game, legendary performance by your dad on that one, along with OJ McDuffie. Justin, the dynamic that is there right now with players. So your dad's the head coach. A lot of people in his position group looking up to him and things like that. Now a new head coach comes in. What's the advice that maybe you give him on dealing with some of these guys that maybe still are looking at him that maybe would be unhappy with coaching decisions going forward, being that your dad was the head guy and now he's the associate head guy?
I mean, I think there's a level of that. That's how they known him for the past years. And to be completely honest, I think Coach Campbell has come in and it's been like a partnership between those two and like really leaning on him for like the culture of the program. I mean, trust me, Coach Campbell has his own identity, own structure, own coaching philosophy, but making that like fit into the mold of Penn State and giving, that co-pilot partnership type of realm has been, I think, good from what I've seen when it was when the transition was first happening, because I think they're both football guys at the core of everything. And when it comes down to that, you got two football guys, yeah, a philosophical alignment happens pretty seamlessly.
Justin, as an alum, Penn State, you follow Penn State obviously no matter what you do. So Penn State's never been, this is uncharted waters. Penn State's never had to kind of redo their entire roster like they've had to now. New head coach, new staff. What are you most looking for? What do you think stands out to you the most about Penn State football moving into 2026, a new season, new everything in a lot of ways?
Well, just to scale out. I mean, I run a sports advisement consulting business where kind of see the whole landscape. So I'm always just interested to see how all teams are going to attack this new era of revenue sharing and NIL in terms of roster construction, management, and really like imprinting your identity into the talent acquisition process and making sure that you're getting the right players in there. So I think that's always um, interesting to see, because that's when you start to see like the true personalities of head coaches and philosophies kind of capture the student athlete at this point. So I'm just more excited to see what kind of product that they're putting on the field, because I know that the philosophy is a little bit different, and it's a different man at the head, and just seeing how they tackle the challenges that this landscape of football presents to them.
Justin, we were talking a little bit before you came on, or a little embarrassed to admit we're not quite sure what you're doing right now. So I'll bite the bullet and ask you what's next for you.
Well, I've run LIG Sports Group as a sports advisory for the past 6 years since NIL started. We help athletes, coaches, and institutions kind of navigate this landscape from an objective viewpoint. Whether it's dealing with players from like clients like you guys might know, like Khalil Taylor. He's one of my clients. Got Ashton Blythe's one, North Carolina. So I deal with individual players, and also like when my Coach Smith took over, I came in and consulted with those guys and advised from a head coach partnership standpoint, and also help with athletic directors and college programs and across the country, just navigating this new landscape from an objective perspective. So that's what I do, kind of in the background of things when it comes to that. But yeah, having a great time doing it.
Justin, with the resume your dad put out there, with the job he did, guiding Penn State to the finish that they had this year, after this season, presumably, his name is going to be at the top of some AD's list to lead the program. Can you ever imagine, after everything, Coach Smith going somewhere else to lead a program in the future?
Absolutely. Like just him being able to, or willing. Like the question is, can I imagine? Absolutely. Willing to? I think if the right opportunity comes, I mean, any leader of his caliber would take that over opportunity to lead a program, to kind of show what he can do from that standpoint. But definitely, he's in a good spot at Penn State, and it's a hard place to beat, and especially in this time. So things have to align. But I think if the right situation comes up, that he would definitely take it.
Justin, we like to ask our guests this, especially former players. So, a Penn State memory as a player, a Penn State memory to you that stands out the most, that's maybe something maybe we wouldn't think of. Is there just some moment or anything that just means so much to you all these years later? And could you tell a little story?
A Penn State moment that means a lot to me. I mean, there's so many, right? Like, I mean, I worked there as a recruiting coordinator, and like landing guys like Michael Parsons and Joey Porter, like through the recruiting process and things of that nature. That's like one thing. Just seeing guys kind of coming through Penn State and seeing them progress into, meeting somebody like Mike at 16, 17, and then seeing him make $100+ million. I think seeing those journeys are always the most fulfilling. But I guess as my time there as a player, man, I think there's something special about that '05 season. I mean, obviously that first game that we beat Ohio State, it was just it was a feeling of like, oh man, this all made sense now, right? When we kind of came to Penn State, when they were on a kind of a slump, coming off a 3-9, and then we beat Ohio State, playing critical minutes in the game, and and making plays and just kind of seeing like that leadership of that team. That was like a very special moment, I think, and just a turning point in how people viewed us at Penn State, whether it was recruits, people on campus, national media, and so forth and so on, and everything. That kind of set up everything else for my career there.
Justin, going off that, how important was it for Coach Campbell to keep Dan Connor? Because you saw him as one of the leaders on that 2005 team, and then obviously played for him being a captain at Penn State. How important was it for him to keep him there for what he could bring to the linebackers and the defense as a whole?
I mean, I think it's critical that he kept AZ and Dan Connor, right? I think those, I mean, you talk about AZ was the captain in the 05 season. So you talk about one of the premier captains. Everybody talks about Mike Robinson as the quarterback, but Alan Zamitis was the heart and soul of that 05 team. Like, if anybody understands, like, if you walked in, like, who not to mess with, who the somewhat enforcer or the attitude of that team was, it was Alan Zamitis. So I think keeping him on board and being able to be around the guys is extremely critical. And then stacking that on with somebody like in the player development with Jay Hill down there. And then, you know, obviously Dan Connor being a Buckets Award winner and what he brings from an attitude standpoint on the field coaching and what to expect is invaluable. So, like, I mean, for him to keep that shows he has a wherewithal, you know, kind of what is needed within those walls at Penn State. So I think it was a great move to keep him on board.
Justin, do you want to get into it again? Do you want to be part of a staff again somewhere?
I'm so, like, when people ask me if I want to get in it, I'm like, I'm 10 toes in it. So it's like, it's just not. Well, I mean, I don't, because I mean, I'm in it. I just talked to more than one coach. Instead of just dealing with Penn State, I deal with a lot of schools. So I mean, like, so I get to see perspectives from all over the all over the country, different coaching philosophies, different families. So I like where I'm at currently. If there's a right opportunity, yeah, I mean, because I help programs now, so it's like being able to do it from like an objective standpoint and not necessarily, joining the staff from that standpoint. But if the right opportunity showed up, I'd definitely be open to negotiating.
Justin, Penn State fans are wondering, you know, Matt Campbell, there's so much new there. So they don't really know a lot about Matt Campbell. I know you, at least on one level, have got to know him a little bit. What could you say to Penn State fans to describe what you can about Matt Campbell as a coach and what he may do there? Because, you know, we got 23 of his players coming here with him too. So
I think they're going to enjoy Matt Campbell. The one thing that I'd say, that whether it's my clients or just other people when I describe him, is pretty simple. He's a football guy. And that doesn't, you know, it sounds cliche, but it seemed like there was a lot of things where we kind of got away from just the things back, like, onto the grass, right? We started talking about just different things just over the years. It just never seemed like we got back to the grass, whether it's whether it's the stadium, whether it's NIL. And it's just like, let's stick to the grass and the identity of this program. They are keened into the football. And, like, I mean, couple of weeks, 3 weeks dealing with him, I mean, I probably watched more film or talked football with him than I have with a lot of head coaches. You know what I mean? So, like, when it comes to that, I mean, he's a ball coach. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, some coaches get like a CEO tag or like a direct, like, he's a football coach. And I think it's going to be a breath of fresh air to the Penn State fans.
Awesome. Great stuff from Penn State legend Justin King. Folks, make sure you're listening to his podcast, State of State. Always great, insightful information from the field to kind of like the boardroom, NIL, everything going on the State of State. Justin, thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you guys for having me. Really appreciate it. Have a great one.
Great stuff from Justin King. Really appreciate him joining the three of us here on the Blue White Tailgate Podcast. Remember, if you want some questions asked to any of our guests, email the show, BlueWhiteTailgatePawcast@gmail.com. Always want to hear from you. And we thank you guys for spreading the word about us as our following grows. Great viewership this season. So we thank everybody for participating in that. So, guys, going off of what Justin said about Matt Campbell being a football coach and that guys are going to love him. Another email in from Ryan in Harrisburg. How does Campbell go about filling out the last 10% of the roster going forward here?
Well, he's still grinding away at it, and one of the things that I think is interesting that's happened since the last time we've spoken is that this kid from McKeesport, the running back from McKeesport, Keeman Spell. Now he's a junior. I heard some rumors that he may reclassify or something, but I don't think that's a real thing. But anyway, my point is, this is the first kid that Campbell has engaged with that I know of who is really an elite guy, the kind of guy that Penn State is going to have to compete with. And they are competing against Notre Dame for this kid, and Georgia and Ohio State and Miami for this kid. And we know that Matt Campbell can do more with less. It's fair to ask, can he do more with more? And of course, we don't know. It's a long way to go here, but maybe this is the first little piece of evidence that he's in there slugging with these kind of elite type kids.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to go after the recruits that already know Penn State that left temporarily, at least, right? He's got to do
that category, even though he's only a junior in high school.
Right. And he's got to go, he's got to build out his roster the way he did by going with guys he trusts. That's why we have all those Iowa State guys. He knows them. We got to get through this year. He's thinking too. And I think the last part of the roster is more recruits. We're going to see more guys join the 2026 class in the next week or so.
Yeah.
But what we're not sure of is what else Penn State's going to get in the transfer portal, meaning that portal's closed, but guys who haven't made up their minds yet obviously can still make their decisions. Penn State didn't really get any big time splashy players per se that we thought maybe they could. Could they still? I mean, I think there's maybe possibilities of that. Or do they get any more guys of note? I think they have enough guys right now to field a team, obviously. I think
they have 100 players and they have around 85 on scholarship. Yeah.
I think they're good. I mean, if I would say anything, is I was expecting, maybe a bigger hit at defensive end, bringing a guy in, because right now, this is the first year I can't remember how many that Penn State will go into a football season without a proven star maker, stud pass rusher. When is the last time that's happened? I don't know. And they don't have one right now. Not saying they don't have guys that can play the position, but they don't have an elite proven guy at that position for the first time in years. So, maybe a wide receiver like that too. So I don't know if that's possible yet, but we'll see.
Is that the top position group of concern? That's a question emailed in.
I think it is. I think defensive end is. To me, defensive end is the position of concern. You got to have elite pass rushers. Penn State has had them. It's defined their defense. And right now, who is, other than a freshman, Yvonne Camaggio, I mean, who do we know is coming off the edge going after the quarterback? I have no idea.
Well, you got Glanville, right?
Yeah, he's coming back but everybody's got questions. Yvonne's a freshman. So Granville's coming back from missing an entire season of injury. So I think he's coming back, but is it going to be like Adisa Isaac coming back, where it's going to take him a half a year or more to get back to where he is or not? I don't know. So it's just, they have such high standards at that spot, I guess is really what I'm saying. But
I would be, I would say a concern is the offensive line, because you have to have 5 of them. And they have like 4 kids coming in from Iowa State, 2 of whom played, one of whom was a good player and started most of the year and was a good player for them. But I think they have a long way to go there. I think you're really relying on guys who have not played, multiple guys who have not done much in their college careers. There, you have Dunko and even Cooper Cousins. We haven't seen a whole big sample size from him. So I think offensive line it reminds me a little bit of pitching in baseball. You can't have too many of them. And it looks to me, if I look at that group right now, Penn State doesn't have enough of them.
in terms of personnel last year, that may have been the most disappointing thing for me, is what, Mike, you just said. We don't see a lot of Cooper Cousins. And as the struggles went through last year, especially early on, run game not grinding, this happening, that we didn't see more Cooper Cousins, because he would seem to be that mauler type, that AQ Shipley type of guy that could really do damage at whatever position along the offensive line. So I think Cooper Cousins is going to be really good. I think it was key that Matt Campbell kept him. I keep going back to that leadership of him as a freshman, waiting and being the last one off the field at the Orange Bowl after the Notre Dame game. But that was really disappointing just from a personnel standpoint for me last year. A big talker this week, multiple emails in. Should there be an NCAA rule safeguarding to prevent the massive roster turnover when a coach leaves, or even when a coach doesn't leave in the program? But I mean, it's basically Iowa State. Mike, you wrote a column about it. Frank, I believe you didn't have quite the headline as Iowa State becomes Penn State that Mike put on his headline, but it's Penn State is basically Iowa State East, and it's happened at other schools. Does something need to be done about that? That the massive amount of turnover, and then you have all these guys in the portal, as Josh Pate pointed out, they don't have homes. Like, they've committed somewhere and they don't have homes in their football career.
4,500 players were in the transfer portal. 4,500. This portal open window that just ended. I can't believe, even from a fan standpoint, following the sport, I think this is going to give you a headache if we're dealing for this year after year after year. So if you say, is there going to be an NCAA rule? No, there's not going to be an NCAA rule, because the NCAA doesn't have any authority. The NCAA is roundly ignored by all the Power Four in football. But I do think there has to be some guardrails and limits on this. People say college football is getting more like pro football. Well, in pro football, it's never been true that every player in the NFL is an unrestricted free agent all the time. So one of the things you're seeing is, in some cases, is litigation, and that's not the answer. Litigation in individual cases. So I think eventually there's going to have to be some corralling of all this. The mechanics of that, I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, James Franklin, one thing he was really good at was stability with his roster and his team. I mean, maybe he didn't get the guys that people wanted in the transfer portal, but he didn't lose much. So this is like, I think it's an aberration at Penn State to some degree, though I do think that this churn is not going to end at Penn State, right? I think you're going to have a lot of these guys that are coming in now that are helping fill out the roster that are going to leave again next year. So yeah, it's going to happen. Not the number quite, maybe not a lot of guys that fans will know, but I think a lot of these guys that needed to come in to help fill out the roster are going to be going again. And I think, how much do fans care about that? That's a question. I think people complain, but yet they're mesmerized by the playoffs, for example. Like, the games were still good, right? Maybe that college football in a way didn't get worse, because look at how the season went. Look at how the playoffs went. I think people were transfixed by Indiana, for example, and the title game and the playoffs and in general. So I don't think it's ruined college football, but it's made it kind of uneasy and harder to follow, at least for people that are older than 30. So
yeah, that's kind of what I was referring to. There's two elements to being a sports fan. One is actually watching the game, and then the other is following the sport. And if you have this endless churn of free agency all the time, I just think following the sport is going to get less fun, if nothing else. And the knowledge that your player, I mean, I really think the TV ratings are great right now. Indiana was a tremendous story. It's all good right now. But I think about what college basketball is right now and what it was in the 80s and 90s. And we all know why that is. It's a pale copy of what it was back then. And I don't think it's impossible that eventually down the road, the same thing could happen to college football.
No, that's an excellent point. And Frank, you mentioned it's guys that are filling out the roster. They're going to be gone next year. Imagine being the second best wide receiver in the country, playing in the national championship game and saying, adios, muchachos, and you're in the portal. And I'm talking about Tony from Miami in the portal. And now there's talk he goes to Ohio State. And it's not, oh, great Ohio State, because Ohio State could have lost, their top dog as well. But I'm just saying, you play for a national championship and all of a sudden you're not good enough. Your backup quarterback, who's a Mendoza at Indiana, the story that could have just written itself. I mean, this is a Disney movie. We're talking maybe billions worldwide, globally, depending on how it hits. If his brother leads the team to a national championship, well, he's supplanted by a kid from TCU. And then this guy's at Georgia Tech. And then it all circles back into Texas. Like, it's mind-boggling to keep track of all of it. And it does. It hurts the storylines. It just hurts everything about college football that made it great. It does.
And Tony is a kid who, from Miami, is he's looking at, okay, we had a quarterback this year who's 35 years old, and he's not going to be here next year. And what is going to be here next year? And you're just constantly reassessing your own situation. And as far as the mechanics of this, for people who don't know, there's an extra little portal window now for teams that were in the playoff. Teams that went as far as Miami did, there's an extra portal window. So that's how we can talk about him. If you're listening to this and thinking, well, I thought the portal was closed. Well, that's the exception that he's using.
Right. Then at Penn State, you have, when we talked about this, mentioned before, Amari Campbell, who went from North Carolina to Penn State. Penn State fans just started to get to know him and respect him and love him. And then, before you know it, he's gone, saying he can't be disrespected again. And I'm thinking, that whole scenario is hard to wrap my head around. Yeah. We just started to get to know the leading tackler on the team, and he's gone because he's saying he's being disrespected. And I think most people in this day and age think that's got to have something to do with money. This is what we're talking about. And it's, I think Penn State will continue to be a little different once we get the new regime in here and settled. Maybe a little different to some degree, but that's why it's easier to follow Penn State wrestling right now. So there's a little more stability.
Yeah. There's no drama.
No, there's no drama.
Like, oh, you want to see me?
And you're kicking a pop out everybody. There's no drama. That's right. But I mean, Campbell is almost like the poster boy for what we're talking about here. It's a really good illustration of it. And you have to wonder, like, I mean, did they have a choice between, we have X amount of money for linebackers, we're going to give this amount to Tony Rojas, and Campbell feels disrespected and says, I'm out of here. I don't know that that's what happened, but certainly that's a reasonable thing to surmise, right?
Was it, Frank, let's throw this one at you. Just say that was the case and Tony Rojas got more money because a lot of people thought he was a lock. I'll say the Twitter brigade, the X brigade, thought he was a lock to follow James Franklin. Was he worth extra money to keep that from happening? Because this is something we have to look at now as like competitors. It's almost like we don't want our chief financial officer going to our competitor to be CEO because he knows you know what I mean? Because it's the business world now. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but yet if you're playing the game, right? If you're Amari Campbell and you're playing the game, you got to understand, you should understand how the game works then, right? If you're going to play in it and you're going to benefit from it, don't you understand how it works? And what I mean by that is that Tony Rojas has a different athletic profile than Amari Campbell. And we know this, and Amari Campbell knows this and knows how the game works. Amari Campbell is getting paid. I'm thinking a good amount of money. So if he's going to be disrespected because a guy that has a better playmaking athletic profile than him is getting some more money, that's college football.
Yeah, it's easy to. That's right. It's easy to say, well, it's a business, but then if it's a business, you got to be like clear-eyed about your limitations too. In that context, I think that's what Frank is saying. I think he's exactly right. Yeah.
So, it surprises me that maybe there's not a little more loyalty. I can't imagine Amari Campbell's not getting paid. And again, we don't know the whole deal on this, but hey, if you get a chance to keep Tony Rojas and he gets a little more money, I don't find that surprising to me at all.
There's a couple things we do know. We know who the national champion is. We don't know when the blue-white game will be scheduled or in what format. We're awaiting that. And we don't even know what the Big Ten schedule is for next year, which is mind-boggling and insulting to every single fan base within the conference.
That's coming in the next couple of days, though, isn't it?
Next Tuesday. Next Tuesday.
Yeah. Ridiculous from the conference office. It's absolutely asinine. I'm sorry.
Why are they waiting so long?
No idea. But you're talking about people that, like your fan base, that wants to make trips, make plans, media organizations that work ahead to travel. It's just insulting. Imagine you're playing out at Oregon. Like, you're a golfer. I want to try to get on Bandon Dunes.
Baby.
Or we're going out to, Wisconsin. And you know what? I'm going to swing by Whistling Straits or something like that. How do you know when to try to book it? And I'm just saying, people try to do that. It's not just we're going to watch a football game. You package things around it. It's absolutely insulting from the Big Ten to not have their schedule out. Maybe they're trying to get 18 teams out of 24 in the college football playoff because they feel they're entitled to now, which is a whole other argument.
This commissioner. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Speaking of the college football playoff, it was a great game. Carson Beck, Drew Aller, obviously with the same pose on their last throws of the game. Who wore it best? Not quite sure. Maybe it was the stadium. Miami throwing interceptions while wearing white uniforms in the national championship game. Never gets old, people.
Go figure. Yeah.
Never gets old.
Yeah.
It was an incredible tournament. It was. Indiana, I'm not going to say shocked the world. I picked Oregon to win in a pool. I thought it was very difficult for a team to beat them twice. They showed it wasn't too difficult at all. Extremely impressive. What do we make of this? For all the SEC talk and everything else, I know we talked about a little bit about Alabama. Are we looking at the Big Ten in the legal money era, or I shouldn't say legal money era because we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but the pro pay the players era? Is this the end? Feinbaum probably went off about billionaires. There's 2 billionaires in the state of Alabama, and they're both Auburn fans. Is this the era of Big Ten football? Are we going back pre-World War II days here where the Midwest and the cities rule here?
Three straight titles.
Go ahead, Frank. Yeah.
No, 3 straight national titles, and I think they added the right teams to boot when they did the last expansion because Oregon's going to be right there. Yeah, I mean, the Big Ten has done it, and they've done it in different ways. And who would ever think? I just still can't wrap my head around Indiana. We've watched them play Penn State for 30 years and have the losing program on record. And not that Penn State killed them every year. Indiana usually found a way to lose the game somehow. Year after year after year in all different forms and fashion. And for them to go through it undefeated, I think Penn State fans should have hope that who knows what could happen in 2026 with Matt Campbell and a very diluted football schedule.
Yeah, that's right. It is a great opportunity. And if you remember, last year, Indiana had a similar schedule. And it kind of gave Cignetti a little bit of breathing room to build it. And if people may not remember this now, but a year ago, people were saying, well, they kind of skated into the playoff and maybe didn't deserve to be there. Notre Dame smacked them around pretty good, although it wasn't as much of a blowout as I think some people portrayed it to be. How much better Indiana is now than they were a year ago is that in itself is remarkable. But where Indiana is compared to where it was 2 years ago, insane. I've never seen anything like it.
Frank, you mentioned, Oregon being right there. So I just want to throw this out when we talk about billionaires. Bill Gates get involved with Washington.
Come on, Bill.
Paul Allen, not a Washington alum, but a Washington State alum. Paul Allen should be funding the Washington State Athletic Department to get them back into major contention because everybody loves Washington State. Everybody loves the Cougars. They're universally beloved as a
Roman Washington, one of the garden spots of the Pacific Northwest.
Breadbasket. It's a breadbasket.
One more thing about the Big Ten here. 3 straight national titles, but in that same 3-year stretch, 3 other teams got to the semis. So it's 6 different teams. I'm counting Washington, who at the time that they got to this final, they were not in the Big Ten, but they are now. You see what I'm saying? Like there's 6 different programs in the Big Ten that have been to the semis in just this little 3-year period, in addition to the fact that 3 of them won the whole deal.
Well, and how far away is Penn State in the fact with all their problems? They could have beat 2 of the teams.
How about that?
In the finals, really. I mean, Oregon and Indiana, you could make arguments they should have both been wins for Penn State. Penn State played the Indiana Hoosiers tougher than any team in 16 games.
No question.
Indiana survived that game. I don't know how they did. I still don't know how they kind of accomplished it, but so Penn State wins 1 or 2 of those games, maybe even, I don't know what it does, but I mean, they competed with 2 of the best teams in the country down to the wire. So how far away? It's not a leap to say that maybe Penn State could surprise people. I mean, that's the way the turnaround is.
I'm going to surprise you guys right now because we might have to quit a little bit earlier because my light has burned out and it is smoking in my hand. So to prevent a fire.
Yeah, we don't want a fire.
Yeah, let's
a fire and a, airline emergency where I'm broadcasting 777s here. We're going to get going because I don't know what's going on with this light because it just started smoking in my hand and it has a lithium battery in it. So we are going to bug out.
One rule of podcasting: no natural disasters.
No natural disasters. No natural disasters. So things are looking good for Penn State. Hockey, it's coming up. Outdoor game. Penn State wrestling. We all know, we've already talked about it. Basketball, maybe they get it turned around. And for Penn State alums, I'm going to throw this factoid out. Boeing is now back to being the largest plane maker in the country in terms of orders, and it's a Penn State alum that's leading that turnaround. And also, I'm proud to say, a Schuylkill County native. So I'm proud of that. I just wanted to throw that out. So all signs are pointing to positivity for Penn State. We thank Justin King for joining the podcast. For Frank Bonanni, Mike Gross, I'm Andrew Glissa. Don't forget, email us your thoughts. BlueWhite Tailgate Pawcast @gmail.com. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.